welcome to yet another Comics League Live. I'm Jared. I'm here with Jason Sandberg. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for sharing your Friday evening with me. I appreciate it. Let the weekend begin.
Exactly right. Well, the way it normally works here at Comics League, if I have a few like general questions, I normally ask all new people. So let's get into it. So, what got you into comics?
1977. My grandmother took me to the pharmacy on a Sunday night to pick up the Monday paper, or maybe it was Saturday night to pick up the Sunday paper. She said, "Go pick out a comic book." And I know that I was aware of who Spider-Man and Batman were, but I never bought a comic book before. I picked up Captain America 214 by Jack Kirby, opened it up, it just popped off the page, and from there I became a lifelong comic book fan. That was it. I was hooked.
That's all. And Jack Kirby's art will do that to you. Like, wow.
Yep.
I sometimes think about
I sometimes think about what if I picked up something by like Jim Mooney or Kurt Swan, and maybe it would have been like a good read, but it hadn't had that energy and that pop. Who knows what would have happened? But certainly things would have been different. And but regardless, here I am.
That's awesome. In your humble opinion, which is better, Marvel or DC?
In my humble opinion, Marvel is better than DC.
Oh boy, nice. So, and why is that?
I would say because of the creation of the Silver Age and Bronze Age Silver and Bronze Age Marvel is better than the Silver Bronze Age DC. Now, there's certain aspects of the DC Silver Age that obviously I enjoy, but by and large, taken as a universe and taken as the characters and some of the internal dynamics of the universes, I prefer Marvel to DC.
That's fair enough. And yeah, there are a few things in DC that in the Silver Age particularly where I'm like, I'm not sure I'm buying that, like Superman carrying planets on a chain. I'm like, yeah, that's a bit
there were some wacky things that happened in Marvel Silver Age. There was one issue of Thor where Thor flies into a Don Blake's doctor's office, and then he opens up a closet, and there's a supply of Thor mannequins, and he takes one and chucks it out the window, so that people on the street will be like, well, he went in there. No, he didn't go in there. He kept flying. And that was so to some extent, I think Lee and Kirby were like, we don't have Superman, but Thor is kind of close. It's kind of close. He's got the red cape, and then he's got the girlfriend who works with him that's trying to figure out his secret identity. And then in lieu of the bottled city of Kandor, Thor had Asgard, right? So. Yeah. I think Thor is as close as you could get to Superman in the Silver Age, and certainly they did some wacky stuff that would have certainly fit in Silver Age Superman.
That is awesome. He just chucks some mannequin out the window. That's good. I like
that. It's continuity, people. It happened. It's continuity.
What's so funny is that sounds like something that would be in the Silver Age of comics, so it's all good. What's your favorite comic book movie?
Oh, that's tough. I think if there's a standalone comic book movie, it would have to be the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, which I think is just pitch perfect. Like if there's only one, I think that's pitch perfect. Now, the Christopher Reeve Superman, I love that, but I think it was kind of long, and maybe I've seen it too many times. But I think it would be that first Spider-Man.
Dude, that was the first comic book movie that I really got into because I saw in theaters as a little kid, and I'm watching this, and I'm like, because even a lot of the visual effects of that movie still hold up. Oh, yeah. I'm like, when you realize that Spider-Man is pretty much CGI, I'm like, I was watching it recently, and I'm like, what? Yeah, Next is very happy to find another Tobey Maguire fan. Yeah, my favorite is the 4-hour cut of Justice League, which I've seen now 13 times.
Sure,
no, I have way too much free time on my hands, but it's like I
tell you, when Superman joins the Justice League at the end to confront Steppenwolf, it's like hours and hours of a steel spring have been compressed. And when he comes in there and does the beatdown of Steppenwolf, it's like this it's like the spring just opens up, right? So
That
yeah,
axe
it's definitely an
shoulder,
achievement.
axe on the shoulder. He just takes it. He's like, "Is that the best you got?" And then he just completely annihilate. The Justice League are like juggling him back and forth, and I'm like, it felt like a Superman comic.
Right.
Like, and he's
No,
in the black.
that was good.
Yeah, so that was awesome. But what's your least favorite comic book movie?
Oh, that'd be tough. That'd be tough. Oh gosh. There's been so many bad ones lately. There've been so many bad ones. Um oh,
There has. I agree on that one.
I can't so realize that there's YouTube streams that are made on complaining about bad comic book movies, and
Yeah,
I don't think I could pull one off. I'm gonna say maybe probably Captain Marvel. Probably Captain Marvel
yeah.
because yeah, I think when you add up everything that's bad, and then the other thing is I think one of the biggest mistakes was the Agents of Shield TV movie bringing back
Coulson.
Coulson. I think that was a huge mistake. That was a huge mistake and like a dead end. But
Because
in terms of
there's no
the
stakes
movie,
anymore.
there's no stakes, and then it basically. So one of the advantages, and this is what's crazy, is one of the advantages that the Marvel Studios had is they had this entire laboratory and experiments of all the stuff that was in the comic books, and they could cherry pick the best of the best, and they didn't have to put themselves in a situation where they need to retcon anything, right? And it just was a huge mistake. So
Yeah, I could. Plus, the problem with the Agents of Shield show beyond that is that there was always is it canon to the MCU? Is it not canon to the MCU? And they went back and forth on that so long. So I'm like, why should I care? And plus there wasn't none of the big tier characters except maybe Nick Fury showed up in the show. So it's like, why am I going to show up to see a bunch of C and D listers?
And essentially, by the end of the first season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they're a rogue intelligence agency operating within the United States, completely unsanctioned and without a budget, right? So it wasn't even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. proper. It was just, I think that probably has the worst stink on it in terms of the TV series. But Captain Marvel,
it's
pretty
just
rough.
It's just Agent of at that point. That's what it is. My least favorite is Thor: Love and Thunder because it's like.
Okay.
I'm a Thor fan, and see, here's the thing. I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok for what it was because it was something new they were doing with Thor and stuff. I'm one of the few people who enjoyed Thor 2, but as soon as they doubled down, it wasn't just like they did more humor like from Thor Ragnarok. They doubled down on it, and they created essentially not Thor. It's just Deadpool Thor at that point. So I'm like, what?
Yeah.
This is not the character I love. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Just,
and I think the first Thor was pitch perfect, and the second Dark World, I thought that was fine. But yeah, I think the jokiness and the deconstruction, it just got out of hand.
That's why I enjoy the DC movies more than the Marvel, because the Marvel ones all became like just joke fest wall to wall, even at inappropriate times. So I'm like, at least DC, they took themselves a little seriously. Some would argue too seriously, but I'll take that over the constant, like, really making really juvenile humor. I get it's a comic book movie, but really at this point, I'm like, I don't want to watch this. It's like really stupid at this point. But it's really intense. So tell me about your comic project that you want to come on and promote.
Yeah. So this is Jupiter. It's 40 pages full color. There's a campaign on Indiegogo, and we're in our second 30. And I'm incredibly humbled and pleased that we cracked $5,000 in that first 30 days. So everybody who backs is going to get this stretch goal, which is a Captain Kleinbottle fan club membership card. It's a 24 point PVC membership card. Captain Kleinbottle is a character in the book. He's the comic book within the comic book, and he's a bit of an inspiration to the main character in her heroic journey in like the quote unquote normal world, right? So this is a stretch goal that every backer will get. So 40 pages full color for $10. great bargain, great price point, because I'm in the process of introducing myself to readers. So I want to make this as accessible as possible. So pretty good bargain there for you. And then in terms of the storyline, Jupiter takes place in a world like ours, where there's no superheroes except for the superheroes in comic books. And the main character, she's a teenager. She's unhappy. She wants to run away from home, not out of neglect or abuse, just out of pure sadness. Her family is dealing with a tragedy. I don't tell you exactly what the tragedy is. There's clues in the book. You're intelligent readers, you'll figure it out, and as the story goes on, more details will emerge. But you come upon this family as they've gone to this cabin to get away and kind of reset their lives. During this family vacation, a hole in reality rips open, and a revolution in a neighboring dimension spills into their world, upsetting their lives and introducing magic and mythological beings and so forth into this normal world. As a consequence of that, she gets the ability to open up portals. The same portal that allowed this revolution to smash into the normal world. She can open up these portals, and so now she can escape. She can run away from home. She could never have to do homework again. She could never have to grow up and get a day job. She go anywhere she wants to go. However, she has to make a decision: fight or flight. Does she run away, or does she stay and fight? Because, as mentioned before, this revolution is going to have knock-on effects and consequences and collateral damage in her world. So this is her heroic journey, where she has to choose between fight or flight. She has to figure out how she's going to weaponize these new abilities, first in self-defense, then to defend others, and then to defend her town, and then her world, right? So this is Jupiter is unique because it loves the superhero genre, but it's not overcrowded, overstuffed with superheroes like Marvel and DC. Marvel and DC, it's like, take your superhero to work day. Every issue of Avengers, hey, Retro Nerd Girl. Every issue of X-Men or Avengers, there's so many superheroes. They're not unique. They're not special. They're too similar, right? So Jupiter is an opportunity to get in on the ground floor, where there's one universe with one superhero. There's going to be plenty of supervillains, because, again, the stakes will continue to rise, but you're going to watch her heroic journey to basically become her world's first and only superhero. And then those around her are going to look upon her in awe. They're going to challenge her. They're going to try to prevent her from doing this. But she's going to be unique, and she's going to be special, like a superhero should be, right? I think the best thing about, like, say, Superman is you got Superman, and then you've got Jimmy, Lois, and Perry looking up to him, being in awe of him, and they're the surrogates for the reader, right?
Yeah.
Normal mainstream comic books right now, they're so crowded with superheroes, they're not special. This young lady is going to become special, and you're going to join her in her journey.
That's great. And right there, it tells me, because one of the issues I have with like mainstream comics is when they write a female character, they start at the end of the journey and expect you to like adopt this character. No, you're taking the time to build that, because you have to show the character struggle and have it, but overcome that struggle. That's the thing. They think that struggle is weakness. No, struggle is actually the opposite of weakness, because you're using strength to overcome that struggle, in other words. And you're showing, and essentially what you're doing is you're showing, no, this is how this character gets to become that hero that everyone looks up to.
The Green Lantern is a great premise to get to an action adventure story right away, right? The ring flies down, goes in your hand. Suddenly you're a Green Lantern. You know what to do. You've got your powers. This is more organic. This is over the course of a couple issues. She's going to first get these amazing abilities. Then she's got to struggle with the ethical consequences of using them, weaponizing them. And then she's going to realize, I need to protect others. And because she's reading these comic books that feature this Captain Kleinbottle, who's also the subject of the Memento fan club membership card, because she's studying these comic books, she has a path. She has a path to become a superhero, which isn't the logical conclusion, right? If you're in a situation where you're the only one who has a certain ability, it isn't a logical path to suddenly put on a costume and fight crime. But because of the circumstances, that is the path that becomes evident to her that she needs to pursue. and then at the end of it, that's the new status quo, and there'll be further adventures with her as she continues to protect Earth and go elsewhere, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
This is essentially an ongoing, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. So I have behind me a binder with 400 pages, 20 issues of her story and basically the series. Now, Jupiter, as I crowdfund it, is going to be 40 pages at a time. So as I start working on issue 2 and continue working on issue 2, I may take pages from issue 3 and pull them into issue 2. So at the end of the day, I don't know if this is going to end up being 17 issues or 15 issues. But I'm gonna tell the story that I've got mapped out. I have a good ending in mind. I'm not going to do a Jar Jar Abrams where it starts out really promising, is exciting, but I don't know where it's going, and it ends up in the
Jar
ditch,
Jar
right?
Abrams, I love that. That's awesome.
I know where I'm going. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pull a Lost on you people where it's really cool and you're really excited and it's like you just know what he's doing. He doesn't have any idea. I won't do that. So basically, I have the ability. I've got a path, and I can adjust the story and make it flow the way I want it to flow, but I do have a good end in mind. So I anticipate there'll be 1 or 2 of these a year. And then if there's a fantastic response if eventually in a couple of years there's a very strong response, I could do this full time. But in the meantime, it'll be 1 or 2 issues a year, 40 pages, and then obviously when I retire, I'll do this full time.
That's awesome. What I will say, when I was going through the campaign, I love the clear Jack Kirby inspiration and like the actual comic book art in here. And I'm like, yeah, I see. As soon as you, as soon as you mentioned like Jack Kirby's like Captain America, I'm like, yeah, I see the inspiration here.
Absolutely. And I had a lot of fun because I got to mix up my art style for the purposes of the story. So when you look at the artwork that's on the campaign, there's some that's in the traditional illustration, modern art, in a contemporary world, just like these people here who are on this hike here. That's basically the normal world. And then if you scroll down to the dinosaur.
Oh, okay.
So then, yep. So then the parts of the book that happen in this neighboring dimension, I drew it in blue ink, and I tried to emulate a 1970s Jambushima Conan, but then I made the colors instead of like a Iron Age, Stone Age sepia color palette. I want to make it psychedelic because it's another dimension. So I got to mix up the colors there. So that the stuff drawn in blue there with the dinosaur attacking the castle, that's in that other dimension. So that's like the second plane of reality, the second kind of art style. And then if you go down a little bit further, you see the comic book within the comic book. So this is where my character is reading a comic book that's created by that world's Jack Kirby. It's Captain Kleinbottle. So I got to draw on the Jack Kirby style, and then I had a lot of fun adjusting the colors and getting the paint buckets just right, because a lot of people, they'll homage Silver and Bronze Age comic books, but the dots are too harsh. So I spent a lot of time getting it so that with the 64 color palette they had in the 70s and 80s and so forth, that I got the effect of the flexographic dots, but they weren't overpowering the artwork. Because a lot of times when people try to make it look like old comic books, the dots are too harsh. So your eye sees the dots before the lines. With this, your eyes see the lines, they see the volume, they see the shape. And then when your eyes relax a little bit or go in, you see all the little dots that kind of give the effect of that old newsprint and so forth.
Yeah, legit. When I first saw this, I didn't notice until you brought it up right now that the dots were there. And I'm like, now I see it. Okay, I see what you're doing there. That's actually really good. That's cool.
I went back and forth, I think 7 times with my printer, giving them test sheets with the 64 patches that they had in the old coloring old coloring method, and I think I got it just right.
Yeah, it looks really good. Yeah. Okay, and that's for actually rating the comic book. That's cool. I like that story because I don't think that happens enough in media because of how superhero heavy our culture is, about how, what if the superheroes are real, but they're in the comic books we read? And I mean, DC has kind of played with that idea a little bit. There have been some indie creators that have sort of done like what if they like mass invaded here, but this is the first where that I've seen where it's like, no, what if you actually went to the comic book world? That's actually really cool. I like that. And yeah, exactly. Yeah, it looks exactly like that art, and it's honestly it's astounding to me how close it actually looks to the art of that time period, and how close it looks to Jack Kirby. It's like wow,
A lot of fun. A
definitely
lot of
worth.
fun to do those pages. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
about 5 or 6 pages of Jupiter is in that style.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then another thing that's kind of unique is that the book is 95% done, right? I've got a
Mm-hmm.
mock-up that I printed here a couple months back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing some final adjustments in the artwork. But if you back Jupiter, at the end of the campaign, I'm going to send it off to the printer, and I'll fulfill it immediately, and then you'll have it by before 4th of July. So that's another reason to take a closer look at this campaign, because if you back it, you're not going to be waiting months and months or a year to get the book.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And so tell us about them stretch goals, dude.
Yeah, so we actually satisfy the the $5,000 stretch goal. So everybody who backs is going to get this Captain Klein Bottle Fan Club membership card, and very important message on the back. Message on the back is that if you're not part of the problem, you are the solution. So a lot of people will tell you that if you're not helping their agenda, then if you're not part of their solution, you're the problem. But my
Mm-hmm.
response to them is, if I'm not part of the problem, I am the solution. Meaning, if I'm doing a good job at work, taking care of my family, just having fun, not hurting anybody, everybody should be more like me versus whoever's trying
Exactly.
upset things, right? And then so everybody who backs is going to get that card. Then I've got some additional tiers where you can get like a postcard portfolio, and then you can get a challenge coin.
And yes, we all love collectibles. That's cool. I like that. And yeah, that's fantastic. On the back of the card, you're basically having like a big, essentially middle finger to like modern culture, saying no, if you're not like if you're not with us, you're against us. You're like, no, I'm just trying to have fun and just live my life. That's what you guys want. So there you go.
Yes, the most I believe the most freedom loving thing you can do is take care of your family, do a good job at
Mm-hmm.
work, don't hurt anybody, but you're not beholden to any, whatever the current crusade is. You're not beholden to that. That's not your
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. If you're living your life correctly, you're not hurting anybody. Then you're doing the right thing. You are the solution. And the people that are having meltdowns and freaking out about any number of fashionable reasons, they're actually the problem.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, it's a fantastic frame of mind, because it's like, yeah, I'm like it because my whole thing is like, yeah, I mean, these people are always angry and upset about stuff, and I'm like, yeah, because you're not having fun with life. There's plenty more of life to have fun with. It's like you and I, we read and write comics. That's what we do. It's all we're just two dudes having fun. You should try it sometime.
And those that are trying to pursue utopia, I would advise them to look at history, because all the people who instituted utopia, they end up killing each other and killing a lot of civilians as well. So just I'm not saying hurt anybody. I'm not saying be a jerk,
Mm-hmm.
but just take care of, live your life, and don't let your satisfaction in life be based upon whether or not the world is perfect, or that it's up to your standards, right?
Mm-hmm. I like that. So now you kind of touched on this in the beginning, but I also wanted to bring up. So what really like inspired you to start this project?
So I did Jupiter in the late '90s as an independent black and white comic book, and it ran 9 issues, distributed through Diamond. I had a lot of fun doing it, and the sales never went down, but the sales didn't go up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Diamond really liked the book. We tried a bunch of different things to try to get it in front of the right people, but the market was sending me mixed signals. On the one hand, the people that were buying it kept buying it. They kept ordering it. The sales didn't go down, but the sales didn't go up. It just kind of flatlined.
Mhm.
And so I hit pause on that, focused on some other things, and then flash forward to 2019 when I see what's happening in the crowdfunding space. I suddenly realized, hey, listen, this is my end run, or this is my end run around the retailers, because this is getting right in front of readers. So crowdfunding is more direct than the direct market, because you're connecting immediately with readers. Now, later on this summer, after I fulfill, I'm certainly going to try to get the book through Diamond and Lunar, and try to spread it more widely. But this crowdfunding is the way to go in terms of launching something that's new, something that nobody's done before. Jupiter is certainly unique in a number of aspects. So retailers, brick and mortar retailers, are probably risk averse, probably going to be skeptical about it. But by spreading the word about it, by connecting with people like who are in your audience, I think I can find people that are it's gonna spark their interest, and they can check it out, and then we'll continue to build that readership.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right about now being the right time to do it, because with people being disenfranchised by Marvel and DC for like any number of reasons, agenda, editorial decisions, mostly agenda, but it's like this is the best time to start an indie comic project. I mean, look at Ethan Van Sciver, any of the Comicsgate guys, and like, and this, because people because it's not like people really stop reading comics. They just stop reading like Marvel and DC and are looking for an alternative. They're hungry for comics, but they're looking for the comics that they remember, the comics that reflect the way comics used to be. And that's why I think the crowdfunding space is growing so much as it is.
Yeah, now is a good time, because obviously the technology is here, right? The tools are here now. These tools weren't here 10, well, maybe they were here 10 years ago, but they weren't as robust, or certainly weren't here like 20 years ago. So the technology, the technology that makes crowdfunding available, it's here now. So now is the time with regards to that. And then I think there's readers that want comic books like they were before. But then I think there's also people that want comic books that just respect the way they used to be. And maybe you're like myself, who's doing something a little bit differently, but I'm respectful of the conventions and the traditions and so forth. And I'm trying to do something that's in the spirit of the best of the Silver and Bronze Age, with some modernity in it. But I'm not trying to trash. I'm not trying to trash the readership. I'm not trying to demean the readership. I'm not trying to think that I'm better than the readership and so forth, or that the readership isn't politically obedient, or isn't politically dedicated to my causes, that type of stuff. So certainly that's not a factor right there. So I do think that for a number of reasons, as you mentioned, now is a great time to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, go off of that. Yeah. It astounds me when you have a writer for like the big two that will go like, well, if you don't like my book, we don't want you buying the book. We don't want you as a customer. So like, wait a second. You don't want people to buy your product. Is that what you're telling me here? And they wonder why their sales are trashy right now. But it's like, yeah, it's like, that's you brought up something very important. It's like a lot of these newer writers, they don't have respect for the past. They think it's just like either it's a stepping stone to a larger career, or it's like they think that just because they got into Marvel and DC that they know everything, and that now we can ignore what happened in the beginning, when they don't realize they're standing on the shoulders of giants like Lee, like Kirby, like Ditko, like all these other titans that built this industry, that built this medium. And what they don't realize is that when you crap on that, guess what that leads to? Your audience that will, even if like you haven't read Silver Age or Bronze Age or Golden Age, you at least respect the cultural impact that, because we wouldn't have comics today if it were not for those ages of comics, because that's where the medium really grew and solidified into a legitimate medium. So they don't realize that they have a job because of the way comics were in the past.
Absolutely.
That's just the way that works. So, and going back to Jupiter, another thing I like because I like the way that you like do a separate art style for the two different worlds, like
Yeah.
really differentiate between those two. I think that's really, 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 really clever.
And it's good for me because it gives me the opportunity to do some variety, right? And then
Mhm.
obviously
Yeah.
there's a bit of a storytelling device where visually, obviously, you can tell if you're in the comic, if you're in the comic within the comic, or if you're in the alternate dimension. And later in the book, later in the series, she's going to be looking into a bunch of other worlds, and I'm going to have so much fun mixing in my art style even further when she's looking into these extra oddball dimensions and so forth. So stay tuned for that in hopefully issue 2.
That's fantastic. And yeah, it's because and again, some of my favorite like comic book content is when comics like intersect with the real world, because I think that's something that I think is actually pretty fascinating. Like, how would we react if our characters came into the real world, or if like we got all of a sudden like transported into like Metropolis, or God forbid Gotham, or like New York, but with the Avengers there. So it's like
Right.
it's something that I'm surprised we don't have more of, because it's right there.
Yeah. Yep. No, definitely. And what's unique about Jupiter? Well, one of the things that's unique about
Mhm.
Jupiter is that it's not it's not self-evident, and it's not a
Mhm.
truism that if you get some powers, you're just going to become a superhero, right? I mean, that's what
Mhm.
happens in that's what happens in superhero comics. But you're going to see her take this journey where every step is in that direction. But it's not like she suddenly says, "Okay, I've got these amazing powers. I'm going to put on a cape." So it's going to be you're going to have fun watching it happen. Where lo and behold, suddenly she is her world's first, only, and greatest superhero.
That's all, and yeah, I do agree that that is very tropey, and like even in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, and they do that where like he gets powers. Well, well, first he became a cage fighter, but
Yep.
the thing is that he decided to don a costume and start doing stuff with
Yep.
his powers. Where this one, it's like it's more stretched out, which personally, I love it when the writer stretches out the storyline and gives it room to breathe, because it doesn't feel like it's a rush. You're Because when you get to that end point, it's more satisfying if you've been
Hmm.
there from step one of the journey. And
Hmm.
that's an issue that I think a lot of viewers have, or like readers have, is that some of them are like impatient to get to that point, but
Hmm.
and then they're like, why are they rushing?
Yeah, and there's a legitimate frustration with decompressed storytelling when at the end of the
Mhm.
6 issue arc, like literally nothing really happened, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a legitimate as a reading experience, and as a consumer, it can be very frustrating when you hang on to a storyline for a year, or I mean 6 months or a year, and then basically it's like all for that. I mean, and in the Silver and Bronze Age, they would do 1 or 2 issue story arcs, right? So they could
Mhm.
be experimental, they could try something, and if it didn't work, you lost 2 issues, you didn't lose 6 issues, right? And
Mhm.
um and so now when there's a there's a quote unquote bad storyline, or not a good storyline, that 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 the bad plot or the bad story or the pointless story is compounded by the fact that it's now 6 or 12 issues, right? And so
Mhm.
there's a lot of stuff where I'll try the first issue or maybe the second issue, and I'm like, I'm jumping off because I do not trust the writer. I don't think this is going to work, and I'm not going to keep showing up every month for 6 months or 12 months just for you to say, okay, this is all going to get resolved in a company wide crossover event. Like, no, I'm out. I'm out. Stop it. Stop it. So,
Don't even get me
um,
started on those company-wide crossovers, dude.
it's, it's, it's pretty rough. Pretty rough.
Yeah, dude, they did an event like Marvel did like a couple of years ago called King in Black, where it's like a big Venom-centric event.
Hmm.
Every Marvel book tied into this event, and the worst part, they hid key plot points in these tie-ins. So unless you've got 1,000 Marvel comics a month, you miss these plot points, and that's exactly what you're saying. It's like they expect you to put in too much, as opposed to having one storyline, one book that's decompressed, where they try and fit in. Oh, it's popular. Every single book has to tie in.
I miss the era. So when Walt Simonson did Thor, and he had his big storyline with Surtur came to Midgard and so forth, or came to Midgard so you get the Rainbow Bridge to go to Asgard and so forth. What they would do is they would just kind of have tangentially in all the titles that month, they'd have it. It's like suddenly it's snowing in California, or they're just kind of randomly making reference to what happened, and that's a good like shared universe. But now, to your point, this gimmick to try to get you to buy 10 extra books, it's just not good.
It's worse when they're tying in books that have no like relationship to say the event. Like, why am I reading Black Cat crossing over with Venom? I don't understand this.
Right.
Or it's like, what's kind of funny is I was reading like the origin of Venom back and like the birth of Venom storyline, and it's like Peter Parker, he takes off the black suit, he gives it to Mr. Fantastic, they give him the Baghead costume, and he's like swinging through New York, and all of a sudden it starts snowing, and then it says, read such and such Thor storyline. And that's exactly your point there, and I'm like, that's way better.
Yeah,
it's like all the plot points are in that one book.
Yep. And it adds to the atmosphere of a shared universe without it being a cash grab.
Yeah, exactly. Putting key plot points in the tie-ins is the comic equivalent of major storyline being in downloadable content for video games. Yes, exactly. That's again one of the issues I think why comics are struggling is that they expect too much on the readership. They think for some reason that we're only buying comics and we don't have like expenses for like houses, gas, and all that stuff. And they're like, no, you only buy comic books. And there you go.
So a problem with the mainstream comics is the variant cover. And a variant cover is a gimmick that plays upon your OCD. Right now, if you have OCD, I encourage you to find a job or a career where the OCD is a virtue, and you can make money off of your OCD. However, don't let the comic book companies take advantage of your OCD. So those of you that like variant covers, fine, I'll give you a variant cover, but you only have to buy the book one time. Okay. So there's my variant cover.
That's cool. So I like that.
So, so definitely check out Jupiter. $10 for 40 pages, and you get a built-in variant cover.
Well, I'm backing it, so there you go. But that's awesome.
Nice.
I like that. That's actually pretty inventive. How having putting the variant cover in the same comic as the main cover. That's cool. I like that.
Part of my mission is to give you the best quality I can give you, and also have as much fun as I can have. Right.
There you go.
So, something I want to point out is Jupiter has a pie ad, right? So all the best comic books from the 70s had pie ads, and so I've got a pie ad that features this Captain Kleinbottle character.
That's cool.
So it features Salvador Dali. So basically, again, if it was really a corporate comics, they wouldn't let me do this. They'd be like, there isn't a pie company paying us for the ad. I'm like, no, I'm going to make a pie ad. So just to add to that, the ambiance, I've got a pie ad in there. So
it's the immersion. It's the immersion.
Yeah, it's about having fun, and it's about the immersion. Yeah, and plus that's 40 pages. 40 pages is a fantastically big canvas, right? So the great thing about 40 pages is that on issue 2 of Jupiter, if this main story, if it needs to be 35 pages, I've got 35 pages, no problem. And then I can put in little things like the pie ad or do short stories for the rest of the remainder. So I have this wonderful canvas. So I'm never, I don't have the need to stretch out the story. I don't have the need to shorten the story, because in lieu of shortening the story, I just pull more pages from the next one into into whatever issue I'm working on to fill it out. And believe me, I spent a lot of time on my cliffhangers. So part of the importance of comic books as a medium is the cliffhanger, right? Because at the end of the story, you want the comic book to be a satisfying reading experience, but you want the next one, right? If you don't want the next one, the comic book has failed. Right now, it can
Mhm.
be a good reading experience, but as a comic book, it's failed. Right now, for a novel, once you finish it, that's it. It's a discrete finite experience. But with a comic book, in the truest sense of the word, it should be enjoyable and it should be fantastic. But at the end, you should want the next one. And so
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time when I was plotting this out and doing these 20 issues and getting them organized. I put in the best cliffhangers I could put in. So stay tuned for the cliffhangers because they'll keep you coming back.
Heck yeah. Again, that's the other really great thing about doing indie comics as opposed to like corporate. You can do whatever you want. It's really just what do you want to do? Do you have the will and the money to do so? Yep, you're good. Roger that, sir. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that's gonna be because, like you said, you can put a pie ad if you want to, because you don't have to worry about anyone saying there's no company actually paying us for this.
Yeah, and a corporation would say, we're not going to let you put the variant cover on the back. We're gonna make people buy the book twice. Like, no, I'm gonna buy the book once. You get your two covers.
That's awesome. I love that. And again, it's like, see what's kind of interesting about what you're doing. You're doing like you're giving the people what the comic book industry does, but it's in a better packaging. It's essentially because like you're giving variant covers, but you're doing it in a way that's not intrusive, and you only have to buy one. So it's like, okay, there you go. This is the way you could Marvel and DC take notes. This is how you do this. It's not that
Absolutely. Yeah.
hard.
And the book is going to be, it's 40 pages,
Mhm.
pretty thick. I'm going to have
Yeah.
it printed on 80-pound satin, so it's going to be able to hold the ink because I got a lot of dense colors in here, and the paper will absolutely be able to hold the ink. It's going to look fantastic.
I can't wait. I can't wait. But so
Most Marvel and
before
DC comics are 20-pound bond, I think, 50-pound text weight. So
and
this is
Marvel's like reading on toilet paper. So that's
Yeah,
besides
yeah.
the
You
point.
you hold it, and then wherever you were holding it, you get the wrinkles and all that. Yeah.
Or it's like, God forbid, you have like a sudden jerk movement and you tear the comic. I'm like, what the? Even in the trades, I'm like, the trades should be like the best paper because it's a book. But
Yeah.
no, you're like, no, we're gonna go the cheap route. Thanks, Marvel. But yeah, so before we wrap up again, remind the people where they can find Jupiter.
Yeah. So Jupiter is live on Indiegogo. There's about 24 days left in the campaign. We have hit our $5,000 stretch goal. Stay tuned. Next week, I will be actually, I think, not this, not either next week or the following week, I'll be announcing one final stretch goal. We're going to do another stretch goal. I'm in negotiations and coordinating that stretch goal with two other parties. So stay tuned for that stretch goal. You're going to want to back it. But basically, $10 for 40 pages, full cover, and you get the Captain Kleinbottle fan club membership card. It's on Indiegogo. If you're a Kickstarter person, it also is on Kickstarter. I'm not advertising or marketing or pushing the Kickstarter campaign, but it's available on Kickstarter. If you're more comfortable with them as a platform, you prefer that, you can go there. Otherwise, it's on Indiegogo, and we've got 23 days left to go.
And again, before we log off, I'll just play the trailer real quick.
Sure.
All right, here we go.
And this trailer, it's all artwork from the book. So I took the artwork, I pulled it in Adobe Animate, moved it around, had a good time doing it.
That's cool. Oh yeah, I know. It's a motion comic. I like that.
And then this is more scenes of that other dimension where the revolution is occurring that spills into
Sweet.
her world, as it were.
Mhm.
And then this is a little surrealist episode. This is a one-page strip in the book, kind of surreal, like a Spanish surrealist, like De Chirico or Dali, and a little bit of Twilight Zone mixed in. And
That's cool. I like that.
yeah, it's just a fun little vignette. And then this next one is a little trippy. People get a kick out of this next one. This is also a one-page strip in the book. I got to animate. It was fun.
Oh wait, whoa!
a lot of people were like, you should have looped it more. I'm like, no, 3 times.
I see where you're going with this. Oh my god, that's cool.
And this next little bit is a bit of guerrilla marketing on my part. This is the current comic book experience as a video game. So this guy, he's by not buying these crappy comics, he's scoring points because every time he doesn't spend $5 in the comic book, his score goes up. And then as the comic books come down, instead of saying like invader attack or something like that, like in a video game, it's telling him this is a cash grab crossover. This is a line wide event. So pay attention to what the warnings are flashing on the computer on the video game here. I had a lot of fun doing this one.
Oh, okay, cash grab. I see that.
So every time he doesn't buy it, it's like you save $10, you save $5. There's the death gimmick. They always kill a character.
Line wide event. Oh, it's good.
Yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst. Yeah. You save so much money by not buying line wide events. Now he sees Jupiter. I say, I got to get Jupiter. So there you go. So that was a fun one. That was a fun one to make. I hope you.
That's such a great trailer. That last part was awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
Again, I'm trying to produce the best quality I can produce and have as much fun as possible. So if you want quality and fun, check out Jupiter. Stick around for future issues and so forth.
Heck yeah, and I'll drop the link in the description of this stream. Jason, was a pleasure having you on. You are always welcome on Comics League.
I will be back. I'll check in later this summer, and thank you for the time. And everybody have a fantastic weekend. Thank you.
Anytime, dude. Stay work, everyone. I will see you later.